In this video, I'll compare high-speed sync flash to shooting with ND filters to get a shallow depth of field portrait on location. Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey and you're watching Adorama TV, brought to you by Adorama, the camera store that's got everything for us photographers. Today, I'm not in my small home studio, I'm on a location shoot, and I'm going to have a look at the difference between high-speed sync remote controls and ND filters. Now, what am I talking about? Well, both of these two things do exactly the same job. They are both there to allow you to shoot with flash and ambient light, but using wide open apertures for a shallow depth of field portrait. Now, how they achieve that is slightly different, but do they do the same thing equally well? Well, there's only one way to find that, and that's to put them to the test. So let's get a model in, let's get a light set, let's get shooting. So to help me out today, I've got the amazing Jade. Jade's going to be the model for this shoot, and the plan is this. I'm going to take the same set of pictures twice. Once using the ND filters, and then same shots again, or as close as I can, using high-speed sync flash. So I'm going to start off with the ND filters. And before I get going with the flash, I've got to do some preparation with my camera. So the first thing to do is set this up. I'm in manual mode, which gives me control of the ISO, the aperture and the shutter speed, and it's the shutter speed that is most important right now because I have a limit of 250th of a second. That is my flash sync speed for my Olympus camera. Your mileage may vary. So I've dialed that in. Now I want a shallow depth of field, that's why we're doing this. So I'm going to go wide open, which for my 45mm lens here is actually f1.2. Then there's the ISO. I'm going to go for 200, native ISO for my Olympus camera. Okay, let's take a picture like this without any flash firing at those settings and see what we get. Okay, Jade, here we go. Little test photo first of all. As you can see, Jade is correctly exposed, which is a bit of luck, but the background is not quite where I want it to be. So that's where the ND filters come in. So I've got the choice of either a 3-stop or a 5-stop. That's it. That's all I can do to dial down the exposure. I can fine tune it with the ISO setting, but let's go with the 3-stop first of all. So I'm going to put the 3-stop ND filter onto my camera lens. Make sure it's attached nice and firmly. And I'll take the same shot again, still no flash. Here we go, Jade. Same settings. So now you can see that the background is nicely exposed, but Jade is slightly underexposed. Well, that's where the flash comes in. So I'm going to turn the flash on, and well, this is where I would normally get my flash meter and go in and meter off of Jade, but right at the moment, due to social distancing, that's not happening. So instead, I'm going to use the TTL mode. I'm actually going to frame this quite tight with Jade, as close as I dare, and then turn the flash from TTL to manual by pressing and holding the TCM button. Of course, you can skip this step and just either use TTL or just manually work it out yourself. Okay, that's the power locked in. And now I should be able to photograph with these settings. Away we go. Here we go, Jade. Now, if I could use a flash meter, I'd put the ND filter over the top and take a meter reading that way, or just use the flash meter and adjust the results by 3 stops in this case. So we've got another location. This one has a really bright background. I think I might need the 5-stop ND filter. Let's find out. Okay, so first things first, same settings as before, wide open, flash sync speed. Yeah, that is really, really bright. Okay, so I'm gonna get my 5-stop filter, attach that to the front, and let's see how this goes. Yeah, at those settings, well, Jade's looking very dark. The background looks okay. Maybe that's a little bit dark too. I could adjust my ISO to 400 to give me an extra stop of light, and that would work quite nicely. Or I could just drop my shutter speed down slightly as well. So let's try that. Here we go. That looks pretty good. Let's put the flash on and fill in with flash. Okay, so let's try maybe quarter power. Let's start there. I'm expecting it to need a lot more power to pass through a 5-stop ND filter, and at quarter power that actually looks about right. I think we've nailed it first time out. That's a bit of luck. Okay, Jade, here we go. So I'm going to do the same set of pictures again, or as close as I can, but this time no ND filters. I'm going to use the much more modern high-speed sync flash. Now the setup for this is slightly different than using filters. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually dial in my aperture. Once again, wide open f1.2 for my lens. Then the ISO. I'll go with my native ISO, which is 200 for my Olympus camera, and that just leaves me the shutter speed. And it's that I'm going to use to control the illumination on the background, the brightest part of this shot. I don't know the right setting. I'm going to have to work it out by trial and error. So I'm going to start at maybe 1,000th of a second. Let's just see how that looks. Okay, here we go, Jade. And at 1,000th of a second, it's not bad, but it is quite bright in that background. Let's double it to 2,000th of a second. And I can double it again to 4,000th of a second. 8,000th of a second, which is maximum speed for my Olympus camera, and that's a little bit too dark. So I think my ideal setting is going to be around about probably 2,000th of a second, thereabouts. But I can change it, of course, as I'm going along, as the light changes. So how do I get my camera, which is limited to 250th of a second for flash, go to 2,000th of a second? Well, I turn on the remote control, I press the button that says sync, and that's it, I'm done. My camera will now quite happily work at 2,000th of a second. It's pretty much that easy. I need to work out the amount of light, however, so again, I could do this by trial and error. I can't do this with a flash meter unless you have a very sophisticated flash meter. I don't have one of those. So I'm going to use the TTL function, come in nice and close on Jade, press and hold the TCM button, that locks it in, and that comes in at around about 1/16th power. That's actually pretty good. Okay, let's take a test shot to see if this works. Here we go, Jade. And that looks absolutely fantastic. I really like the balance of flash and the background illumination. Let's take some pictures like this. Jade, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. For high-speed sync to work, you do need a flash that's high-speed sync compatible and a transmitter that's compatible with your camera brand. So here we are back at the final location, and I still have a really bright background over there. So I think I'm going to be at 8,000th of a second shutter speed. I don't think there's going to be any question on that, but we'll find out. So still at f1.2, I'm still on ISO 200. Let's dial in 8,000th of a second, take a test picture without any flash and see how it looks. Okay, Jade, here we go. So Jade looks a little bit underexposed. That's what we're after. That background looks probably about right. So that's the settings I'm going to go for. I'll turn my flash back on. I'll make sure it's in high-speed sync mode. And, well, again, I'm going to do trial and error to work out the exposure. 8,000th of a second will need a fair chunk of flash power. Let's try 1/4 power, see how that looks. Looks just a little bit too bright, just a tiny bit too bright. I can probably take it down just a wee bit. Try 1/8 power. And that feels better balanced. Okay, so let's take some shots like that. Okay, Jade, here we go. So let's have a look at the results. And the first thing I noticed was that the ND filter photos were definitely a little bit lacking in contrast, but that's a really easy fix in post-production. And after I'd done that, I really couldn't tell them apart. When it came to actually taking photos, both ways worked perfectly fine. Although the ND filters are a little bit more fiddly and a bit more limiting on the settings I could use, luckily with a mirrorless camera, I didn't have to worry about a dark viewfinder. Now for high-speed sync flash, I'm lucky. I already have the Flashpoint Explore 400 and the R2 Pro transmitter, which are fully compatible with my Olympus camera. So for me, high-speed sync flash is so simple to set up, it's perhaps not surprising that's the way I prefer to work. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter which method you use. If you get great pictures, you've got great pictures. That's the most important thing. Now, if you've enjoyed this video or you've got any questions, leave me a comment below. Click on the bell icon for regular notifications of all the brand new videos right here on Adorama TV. And of course, click on that subscribe button. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching.